They believed they could stop you. They believed their plans, murmurs, and low-effort assaults would unsettle you. But you're prospering, untouchable, rising like a force they'll never comprehend. The fact is that they were never a match for you. Their whole existence revolves on your every movement, while you're too focused on winning to recognize their desperate situation. Every effort to derail you simply increases your momentum. Every trick they pull, each burner account they make, each bitter word they write, none of it counts because, no matter how hard they try, they can't outthink fate and certainly can't outwork you. And here's what truly hurts them. As they wallow in their own jealousy, you're moving into a level they'll never attain. They attempted digital warfare, but you are constructed differently. They believed they could influence the algorithm, but your presence cannot be controlled. They believed their small games were important, but the cosmos had already chosen its favorite. So let them watch. Allow them to loiter. Allow them to reload your website with shaky hands and a sinking heart in the same manner that a guard dog detects fear. You can feel their failure before they realize it. They sought to play mind games, but they had forgotten who they were dealing with. Now let's get started. They vomited their hate into the unknown, hiding behind anonymous personas, certain that their crimes would go undetected, convinced that the weight of their ambitions would bring you down. Their ignorance, however, was their first error. They failed to realize that once released, energy does not just dissipate. It follows the currents of the unseen, which do not bend for weak hands. Their poison did not go into your foundation. Their shadows never found a place to rest in your light. The forces they attempted to control resisted their grip, turning their own goals into a trap. Their own magic recoiled before it even reached you, as if the air itself refused to support its weight. What they believed was a whisper of devastation has become an echo that is now circling back, sharpening its fangs against the hands who unleashed it. They felt they had constructed a trap, deliberately engineered to devour you. Instead, they entered into a labyrinth of their own devising, where every route took them further into the darkness. They summoned the mechanisms, controlled the forces they wanted to command, only to find that they were now beyond their grasp. Paranoia grabs their minds as the shadows they created close in on them. What was once an illusion of power now collapses into chaos, their own ideas unraveling like a thread stretched too tight. The weight they attempted to throw on you has become their own burden, slamming into them with unyielding intensity. What they planned as a snare has become an unbreakable cycle, trapping them in the energy they released. They sowed the wind, and they will reap the storm. Hosier is 87. You can't build an empire on falsehood and expect it to last. You cannot cultivate seeds of devastation and expect a harvest of peace. That's not how it works. They believed they were in charge of the tale and were the ones writing it. They talked confidently, moved with assurance. They were certain that their words had the power to alter reality. However, the difficulty with falsehoods is that they have no roots. You may construct a home out of smoke, but the wind will always blow. And now, the storm has come. The same influence they battled so hard to gain is slipping through their fingers. Their once loyal fans are becoming more distant, and their words are falling hollow. Their plots are disintegrating quicker than they can fix them. They check their alerts, hoping for the affirmation that previously motivated them, but it is not arriving. The stillness is becoming louder. They felt that deleting you would elevate them. They believed burying your name would let them shine brighter. However, the cosmos does not reward the effort of bitter hands. Instead of creating their own, they were too focused on tearing you down. They now have nothing left. Their previously obvious presence is fading like a shadow. At midday, their remarks, which were previously sharp enough to pierce, drop with a dull thud. Unnoticed, unimportant, people who previously believed their falsehoods are moving on, recognizing that the basis was always empty. And this is the bit they didn't expect. They are the architects of their own demise. See, they saw the stillness as a success. They believed that moving in the dark would protect them. But the unseen do not forget. Every covert action, hidden goal, every whispered plan, it is all coming back, piece by piece and thread by thread, pulling them further into the disaster they made. They can feel it now, the strain, The weight, the repercussions are seeping in. They cannot be outrun, like a tide. Their own game has gone against them, and there is no reset button. There is no way to reverse what has already started. And the greatest part? You didn't need to raise a finger. You simply kept marching, rising, and showing up. They dug themselves into a trench that was too deep to escape. They are now being forced to harvest what they sown. And you? You're still standing. You're still flourishing. And now they are left with just the wreckage of their own creating. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6-7. The harvest always arrives. You can't sow poison and expect a garden. You are not allowed to toss stones while praying. They do not back down. See, they believed they were brilliant. I thought they were untouchable. They thought their words in the dark would never be traced back to them. However, the law is inscribed in the unseen. And whatever you throw out, you will confront back. It began little. Just a flicker. Just a fissure in the foundation. There are a few recognizable terms here. There is a repeating sentence there. At first, there was nothing. Nothing worth noting. However, patterns consistently disclose the truth. What they attempted to spread in secrecy is now returning to them in open daylight. Whispers have evolved into voices, and those voices have become incontrovertible evidence. They assumed they were ghosts in the machine, moving between displays. But now the light has found them. The earth underneath them is changing, unstable and frail. The same techniques that once gave them power have now become shackles that hold them in place. The tools they used to mislead have become the same weapons that are bringing them down. They believe they could influence perception, twist narratives, cast you as the villain in their small plot. But now the public sees the truth. And the worst part? They cannot stop it. Every screen refresh provides a new discovery. Every communication given adds another nail to their own grave. It doesn't matter how many identities they use or how many accounts they switch between. The weight of their own acts is bearing down on them, and they can feel it. All eyes are on them now. The people they used to manipulate are awakening. The illusion is shattering. The kingdom they founded on falsehood is collapsing, and the walls are closing in. They played a game. They were never intended to win. They believed they could control the tide. But the water is already here. And you? You didn't need to raise a finger. You simply stood firm. And now they find themselves standing amid the rubble of their own handiwork. Let them scurry. Let them panic. Allow them to attempt to rewrite the past. It is too late. The tale is already written. They had no idea what power would be unleashed when they released their hatred. They assumed their words, plots, and intents will go unchecked, and that the invisible will stay unconcerned. However, the unseen cannot be ignored. It also doesn't forget that the air has moved. The tide has turned. Even if they can't see it, they feel it. They cannot identify the power, pressing against them, disintegrating their influence, and making their weapons ineffective. Every attempt to modify reality in their favor has been greeted by something stronger, far beyond their grasp. They threw their goals forth, but they never reached their aim, never took root, never got momentum. Instead, the weight of their own activities is pushing back, compelling them to face what they refuse to admit. The energy they use does not evaporate. It returns. The storm they called does not go where they want it. It gathers power, destroying every illusion they previously believed in. There is no need to retaliate or meddle. The battle was lost. The instant they thought they had control, the force they discarded as unaccounted for had already moved. And in its aftermath, they have nothing left to hold. Nothing but an echo of their own demise. The Lord is a fighter. The Lord is his name. Exodus 15:3. You can hear it in the air. A storm they didn't see coming. A force they believed they could control, now going against them. See, they believed they were the architects. I assumed they were the ones pulling the strings. But, God, do not let the wicked dance eternally. There is always a point when the music stops. And that time is here. They played their hand, believing they had the ability to rearrange the pieces of your life as if they were playing a huge game of chess. But they forgot who had set the board. The very approach on which they depended has backfired. Every thread they spun, every strategy they devised, and every word they murmured in secret. It's all collapsing around them like a home constructed on sinking sand. They can feel it now. They can't understand the sudden tightness and weight in their chest. They update the displays. They check their messages. But no response arrives. The evil they once spread has returned. Not because you battled, but because the conflict was never yours to wage. See, they weren't simply trying to slow you down. They wanted you buried. They wanted to see you fall so that they could feel taller. They wanted the world to forget your name, remove your impact, and deprive you of everything intended for you. They assumed that if they pulled enough threads, you'd just vanish. But they didn't comprehend you aren't supported by human hands. They called for shadows, but the light reached them first. And now the exact strategies they used are falling under them. The platforms they controlled are turning against them. The people they previously controlled are awakening. The phrases they used to distort reality are being echoed back to them. However, this time they do not have the upper hand. They're rushing for a getaway. But there's nowhere to hide now that the tide has changed. And let me tell you about when God moves. Nothing is in his path. So, let them panic. Let them sit in the solitude. During that wait, the knowledge that everything they put out is suddenly coming back at them. Allow them to experience what it is like to lose the control they formerly abused. And you? You don't need to do anything. The tale was never theirs to write. Finally, there's the ending. It was never in their favor for a while. The resistance was genuine. The doors that used to open easily become impediments. The impetus that had propelled you ahead now seemed like a fight with an unseen stream. It was calculated, deliberate. They didn't only want to impede your route. They wanted you to walk away from it completely. The setbacks were not random. They were intended to wear you down, destroy your resolve, and convince you that something beyond your control was closing in. They realized that the mind is a battlefield, and fear is the most powerful weapon. If they can make you doubt your mission, you may falter. If they can make you question your own power, you may give up. However, they did not account for endurance. They did not examine what occurs when pressure is used to refine rather than crush. They overestimated the importance of resilience. Their biggest mistake was believing that challenges would weaken you when, in fact, they just strengthened your foundation. The same power on which they had counted is now acting against them. They used to regulate machinery that are now dysfunctional. The buildings they constructed to imprison you are falling from inside. What they set in motion cannot be undone. And now they are trapped in the storm. They thought they were invincible, but they were only playing a game they never really understood. And now it's done. No weapon made against you will flourish. Isaiah 5417. They erected the trap, placed the bait, and waited. They murmured, plotted, and planned. They flung every dart and started every fire. And yet, here you are, standing tall, unharmed, prospering in a manner others cannot comprehend. See, they assumed they had influence over the result. They felt that if they pulled the right strings, closed the appropriate doors, and controlled the right people, they might make you vanish. But they failed to account for one thing. You never walked this journey alone. When God decrees your rising, no one can stop it. Now the weight of their own decisions is bearing down on them. The realization is setting in. Everything they put in motion has turned against them. They can't sleep. They cannot concentrate. They keep checking in, hoping to see whether their preparations had any impact at all. But what do they find? More people are saying your name. More doors are opening for you. More favor, more blessings, more acceleration. And who are they? They are trapped. Their plans were intended to break you. However, all they did was make you stronger. The pressure was intended to shatter you, yet it transformed you into something unbreakable. They tried every trick, but you were never playing their game. They felt they have power. However, they are now witnessing as their power crumbles in front of their eyes. They witness everything occurring in real time, and it's driving them insane. The same people they previously controlled are waking up, turning away, and questioning everything. They slam the same doors shut. You've been torn open wider than ever before. The obscenities they threw at you have now come back to haunt them. Because this is what they do not grasp. You don't fight fights like they do. They utilize lies, manipulation, and bitterness. You demonstrated patience, faith, and resilience. They spent months, if not years, attempting to undermine you. But all they did was hasten up your transition. And now it is too late for them. The frustration is bubbling over. The perplexity is escalating into terror. They reload the screen, expecting to witness your demise, only to see you ascend even higher. They were defeated before they even started because they lacked the power to intervene in matters beyond their control, and it is what bothers them most. As a result, whomever hears these words of mine and puts them into action is like a wise man who built his house on solid rock. The rain fell, streams surged, and winds blew and battered against the house. It did not, however, topple since it was built on solid rock. But anybody who hears these words of mine and does not put them into action is like a stupid guy who built his home on sand. Matthew 7:24-226. You may construct the highest home in town, but if the foundation is sand, the storm will always come and collect. And the storm is here. They believed they were untouchable. They believed they were the builders of reality itself. They manipulated, twisted, and dominated, basing their authority not on truth but on lies. And for a time, it worked. The walls held. The illusion was tall. However, a falsehood cannot serve as the foundation for anything genuine. And now, the cracks are now too wide to be patched. The whispers have become voices. People who formerly blindly followed them are now seeing the patterns, discovering the discrepancies, and awakening to the reality. The castle they erected to dominate the narrative is collapsing under the weight of its own lies. They sense it, a gradual unraveling, the tug of reality, catching up where they previously set the rules. They are now being exposed by the game they designed. The saddest thing is that there's no way out. They were never invincible, only unopposed. But suddenly the light is too bright. The monitoring is too great. The audience they deceived has turned away. Disgusted, disillusioned. I refuse to buy into the delusion anymore. Here's the fact they didn't want to confront. They no longer have control. They check their screens, seek reassurance, desperate to maintain the failing facade. But all they perceive is nothingness, where their impact formerly existed. The voices are now stronger, exposing their lie and showing what they tried so hard to hide. The same people they used to trick are watching, remembering, and conversing. They sought power. However, the manipulator never actually has authority. It is related to truth and truth. Truth does not need permission to be revealed. The home that they constructed is crumbling. The walls are giving way. The foundation is gone, and rain is pouring. And you? You are still here, still standing, still undisturbed. Because, while others were building on sand, you were always standing on firm ground. Do not be fooled. God is not mocked by whatsoever a man does. So is that. Shall he also reap? Galatians 6 verse 7? See, there was something they didn't realize when they began this conflict. The law of return is unbeatable. You cannot cultivate seeds of devastation and expect a harvest of peace. You cannot hurl dirt on someone's name and expect your own to remain pure. They believed they were operating in secret, moving in the shadows, putting things in motion that could never be traced back to them. But what they didn't comprehend was that God doesn't need fingerprints to pronounce judgment long before the truth is revealed. The proof was already there. The energy, the resistance, and the peculiar series of events that seemed too planned to be coincidental. However, the only thing they ever planned was their own destruction. Because while they were plotting, you were suffering their deceit. You were becoming stronger. And now, they're beginning to feel the weight of their creations. See, the universe saves receipts. Every lie they uttered, every roadblock they erected, and every whispered plan. It is all coming back. And this time, it carries their name. They believed they were architects, but all they created was a trap for themselves. Instead of shutting the doors for you, they sealed them for themselves. They are losing the power they attempted to deprive you of. They used to be able to govern these folks. Attorney, get away. Beginning to realize the reality. The worst part, there is nothing they can do to prevent it. You're not here by chance. If you sense a tug, a knowledge deep inside, but you were picked, this is your moment. Click the super thank you button and contribute $50 or more to get deeper insights, unique information, and a path that fits with your divine destiny. This is not only a gift, it's a proclamation, a step toward being the person you were intended to be. Take the call. Walk with us and totally embrace your destiny. Your adventure starts now. Do they move differently now? More reluctant and paranoid, because they know deep down that everything they put out made its way home. The same plots they devised against you are now circling back around, and the delays they attempted to generate for you are becoming permanent hurdles in their own lives. They used to mock your failures, but now they're seeing their own empire disintegrate piece by piece. And you? You didn't even need to fight, since the conflict was never between you and them. It was between them and the rule of the unseen. They believed they could control destiny, manipulate energy, and tug the strings without consequence. But God's justice is not an opinion. It is a law. Today, the legislation is being enforced. They are now face to face with the power they believed they controlled. And it is not compassionate. It doesn't negotiate. It does not yield to weak hands. They are getting what they sown. And you? You are still soaring. This was never just about endurance. It was about change. The path you're on today isn't the one you began on. You are not the same person you used to be. The weight that previously hampered you is now fueling your progress. The lessons learned via resistance have sculpted you into something unassailable. You move and think differently. Carry oneself with genuine authority. What was supposed to destroy you has merely strengthened your foundation. The efforts to crush your spirit have shown its unbreakable depth. And now the roles have changed. Those who formerly dominated the narrative are now watching as their power falls, powerless to change the path that has already been established. They wanted to end the stillness, to decrease. Instead, they were forced to see something they never expected. Ascension. This was never a contest of equals. When they opted to act against you, the result was already predetermined. Their meddling has had no effect on the route ahead of them, because nothing they did could possibly change what was already set in stone. The stone that the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone. Psalm 118, verse 22. They believed they could shut you out, silence your voice, dismissed you as if you were nothing. But what they failed to see is that rejection is often simply redirection, God's method of setting you for something better. They attempted to obstruct your path, yet all they accomplished was prepare you for a higher level. They can't get to it, and they didn't expect it. When God has his hand on you, there is no such thing as a setback, only acceleration. Every hurdle they set in your path drove you to think more critically, move sharper, and climb quicker. They didn't derail your progress. They lit it. What they intended was to do damage. God changed it for the better. The same forces that attempted to repress you have become the fuel that propelled you ahead. They intended to hinder your advancement, but all they did was purify you. They intended to steal from you, but whatever they touched has been restored tenfold. They intended to obliterate you, but now, your presence is greater than ever. And this is what hurts the most. They see it occurring. They can sense the change. They sense a weight pushing down on them. The abrupt hush. The reality set in that their plans did not just fail. They backfired. They expected to see you struggle, but instead they are seeing you bloom beyond their wildest dreams. And while you keep ascending, they stay trapped because the same shackles that they sought to bind you with are now twisted around their own ankles. The same energy was utilized to influence, mislead, and conceal. It is looping back. I am pressing against them, suffocating, consuming. They move differently today. The confidence is gone, replaced by paranoia. Their former assurance has given way to uncertainty, because they see that the exact thing they fought against has developed into something unstoppable. And the greatest part? You didn't even need to fight. You continued going, pushing, and believing. And now that the dust has settled, it's evident they were never an issue. They were just a lesson. And you? You are living evidence that no power in the world can halt what God has planned. What they put in motion has started to work against them, unraveling thread by thread, descending into chaos. They can no longer contain the energy they have manipulated. They have began to be exposed after previously being tightly concealed. Piece by piece, they miscalculated the overall equilibrium, assuming they could disrupt and reroute without consequence. But their world is changing, breaking beneath the weight of its own distortion. Every effort to suppress has merely magnified the truth, and every lie created in the dark is being exposed in the light. The armies they formerly led no longer listen to their orders. The buildings they erected to disguise themselves are falling in real time. The deceit they previously used has become their undoing. They attempted to control, influence, and dictate results that were never theirs to begin with. And now they must watch as the doom they intended for another rounds back with accuracy. The lesson has been written in ways that students cannot ignore, and the truth is unavoidable. The only damage was the one they caused for themselves.